Everybody, welcome back. I'm out here in Dave's garage, just kind of noodling around on the horn here. I'm still messing around with the Metalite mouthpiece and the baritone sax reed on the tenor sax. Yeah, I've been experimenting with the number 4 reeds, and they take a little wind to make them move. I'm using Rico plastic covers, pretty stiff reed. I've gone back to the 3.5 for this video so I can catch my breath. The 4s are, I think there's promise, but they gotta flex up a little bit before I can play them. Anyway, today's meeting, if you will, is about you, the emerging soloist, the emerging saxophone improviser, composer, soloist, whatever you want to call it. You're new at this and you've started to record yourself. Maybe you've gotten to go out to a couple of the jam sessions in town. You got to play a little bit, you know, and you've heard your solos, you've listened back and you thought, you know, something is missing from my solos. There's something that's just, you know, my solos are, you know, maybe they're not quite as interesting or quite as, you know, detailed as I'd like to have them. So what is likely not there is something I'm going to call bebop language. That's right, bebop language. What the heck is bebop language? Good question. Let's go back and wind the clock back to the day when bebop actually changed the way jazz music was played. 40s, 50s, bam, you had Charlie Parker and you had some other, you know, famous names that were blasting this music at an incredibly high clip. And it must have been, I mean, this caveat, I'm not a huge bebop fan, but I recognize that it's become vital to the way that we tell stories in popular music, right? It's become as ingrained in our musical culture as Greek mythology is in our storytelling, right? Okay, so bebop language, bebop music. Basically, to just kind of break it down a little bit for you and make it in very simple terms, bebop is rhythmic and melodic embellishment, okay? We're not playing straight eighth notes. We're using, we're syncopating a little bit there. Maybe using eighth rest, eighth note combinations, triplets, 16th note triplets, 16th tied to 8 notes, anything to kind of make things a little bit off center or to syncopate just a little bit. And the melodic embellishments are coming from chromatic notes, right? The wrong notes, the non-chord tones, right? The ones that you land and go, oh God, not that. No, those are actually quite usable in bebop language. A half step below, a half step above, chromatic passing tones. We can end a phrase with a chromatic half step. So all of these things add a little bit of interest. And you'll hear bebop language in music that, you know, once you become attuned to it, you will hear it in other forms of music, like R&B. You will hear it in rock and roll solos. Probably not country, maybe not so much gospel, but certainly in jazz, in blues, and the other kinds of pop music that I've mentioned. Bebop language is very prevalent to different degrees in our music, okay? How do you learn to play it well? Again, I don't want you to overthink any of this, but you know, you could go out and look up books. There are scores of books about bebop, charts, songs, classes, courses you can take in bebop. You don't have to become a bebop player to learn bebop language and learn to incorporate that in your solos, if you will. But you can go all the way out, and the people who really know bebop say that once you've mastered bebop, you can play anything. I got that from Charles McPherson. He said that once you can play bebop, you can play anything. And I believe he's right. Bebop is pretty difficult music. But tune in a Red Prysock solo. Red Prysock played back in the 40s, 50s. Amazing sax player. And you're going to hear some bebop. There's just so many people that are using or putting or phrasing bebop in their music, whether, like I said, whether they know it or not, that's probably what's missing from what you're doing. And you know, it's been said before that if bebop language is not in your solo, it's just not going to be that interesting. Okay, so how do we start? Well, let's take that apart. Once again, I mentioned rhythmic embellishment and melodic embellishment. Okay. Rhythmic embellishment will be the easiest place, I think, for us to start today. Rhythmic embellishment. So let's just take a song that we know and we'll play that, okay? And I'm going to pick, I'm just going to arbitrarily pick one that I know that you all know. Here we go, ready? Right? Hot cross what? Hot cross what? Hot cross what? Buns. You got it. Hot cross buns. Of course. We learned this song in the 4th grade. It's in your hands. Now, we don't have to do hot cross buns. You can pick anything that you want. I don't care, but I'm just for the purposes of this exercise and not knowing the level at which you all play, I'm going to take this like just stupid simple song. And what we're going to do, rhythmic embellishment begins with a very simple task. We're going to make the long notes short and the short notes long. It's that easy. Let's do that at first, okay? That G. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's turn that around. Like that. All right. Excuse me, I had a little. Okay. All right. Dotted 8th rest in front of 8th note. Bop, bop, bop. All right, now once you get better at doing this, and I want you to practice it just the way we did, brainless, mindless, just sit down and crank out 10 of these a day. Just sit down and don't think about it. Just go hot cross buns. I'm gonna change up, or whatever. Fly me to the moon. Anything that you really, really know, like really down cold, and just change it up and be as silly as we just were just now, and just do this every day for the next 6 days. 6 days. You get a day off. 6 days. I want you to do this like 10, 15 times. At a sitting, and when you get comfortable with it, let's pull out the old straitjacket, otherwise known as the metronome, and start using the metronome. Set that up, and then start playing, you know, these rhythmic changes, these embellishments to the metronome. All right, it'll really, really, really help ground this whole theory and get it into your head that, you know, you can embellish. And you can embellish the rhythm of just about anything as long as, and here's the main rule here, all right? As long as I can still tell that it's hot cross buns, as long as a listener can still hear the original melody, all right? You don't want to take it too far out so that we can't really understand what we're doing. When you get better at this, then start sticking, you know, how about some triplets in there? All right, some of that went a little bit outside, but you know, it's okay. We have no rules here. We're just going to learn to rhythmically embellish in a simple way by making the long ones short, the short ones long, and then starting to add, you know, other ideas. Dotted eighths, 8th rests, dotted quarters. We'll put in some triplets. We'll put in some, you know, some 16th note things, some 16th to 8th notes. We can do all kinds of things there. You can do all kinds of things and learn this bebop language and learn to incorporate it, okay? Now, there are bebop scales. Speaking of melodic embellishment, there are bebop scales, and this is not the purpose of our session today to go into those. There are plenty of places where you can look them up. You can Google bebop scales right now, find them all, and I think you'll find that the two that are probably the most useful are the bebop major and the bebop dominant. Look those two up. Those are 9-note scales. Fascinating. And why there are 9-note scales. I don't want to go into that right now. What I want to do is point out that chromatic tones, chromatic approach notes, why would we call that an approach note? Well, we're going to play a note a half step below or a half step above the starting note. What's the starting tone here? We're starting with B, right? What's a half step below B? A sharp or B flat? That easy. What's a half step above B? C, right? Good place to use your side C, by the way. Finger B, and it's the middle palm key, not the top one, not the bottom one, but the middle. That turns a B into a C. Very useful in cases like that. All right, so passing a chromatic tone on the last as well. So that's melodic embellishment in a nutshell. Chromatic tone a half step above, a chromatic note a half step below. Again, the chord tones, the non-chord tones that you landed on before and thought, oh no, got to get off of them. Well, they're very useful in bebop language, okay? Chromatic passing tones, we can stick those in the middle of this little melody, this little hot cross buns thing we got going on here. We can end with them, can do anything that you want. And once again, sit down and do this thing like 15 times a day for the next 6 days, all right? 6 days, you will be a whole different person. Your solos will be entirely, you'll have different ideas at least by the end of that period of time. Now, how do we integrate these things into our performance? Next time you have one, next time you get together with the men and women that you make music with, women and men that you make music with, sit down and after you've done this for several days and you feel fairly comfortable with it, and it's your turn to take a solo, remind yourself, to stick at least one of these ideas into your solo, at least somewhere. Record yourself and play it back and listen, okay? Always do that. Record yourself and listen on playback. It'll give you a great idea of how you sound. And it's, again, not that difficult. Playing bebop like a bebop master, oh boy, that's a 4-level black belt in karate. That's up there. But to put some of these ideas into your solos and to make them a little bit more interesting, just takes practicing these ideas, and then it takes craftsmanship and the intent. The intent is there, artistic intent, and that's what we want to start thinking about. So again, get these ideas under your fingers, that's the phrase. Learn them, get them going, be comfortable with them, and then, when you are comfortable and you have the opportunity, sit down and start trying to insert some of these cool ideas into your next series of solos. All right? If you have any questions, reach out to me. All 207 of you, thank you so much for being there. I love doing these, and I love that you're there, and I love communicating with all of you. davegoodsax@gmail.com will get right to me. davegoodsax@gmail.com, where you can leave comments in the comments section below. And again, if you have any ideas for future sessions such as these, any needs, comments, ideas, things that you like to cover, things that we'd like, in our particular style here, of course, but please feel free. Reach out to me in any way that you want, and we'll go from there, okay? So in the meantime, melodic embellishment and rhythmic embellishment are the 2 stepping stones to incorporating bebop language into your solo playing, all right? All right. Hope this helped. Thanks for being there. See you again.